Hi guys! In today's video, I want to talk about one of the most beloved characters in the Wheel of Time, and that is Mat Cauthon. I personally really love him, and I have a very difficult time choosing between him and Rand. They're just like right here, the both of them, and they just like constantly switch, and I truly, for the life of me, cannot choose one of them to be my favorite. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to be saying that Mat is my absolute favorite. And I thought it would be really fun to choose his top 10 best moments, in my opinion, throughout the series. So obviously there are going to be spoilers. If you haven't read the series or are like in the middle of the series and don't want to get spoiled, this is not a video for you. If you guys have your favorite Mat Cauthon moments, let me know in the comments below what they are, because I had to really brainstorm for this video. There are too many moments of his that I really like, so there are going to be a few that I left out or are in the honorable mention section. But without further ado, let's get into it. At 10 we have, and this is very specific, but at 10 we have Mat and Rand in the barn after Rand first channeled in The Eye of the World. This scene in particular really stuck out to me on my second reread of The Wheel of Time. And I love it because you can absolutely see how selfless Mat is as a friend. He at this point is both mentally and physically really ill because of the cursed Shadar Logoth dagger, but still when he sees that Rand needs his help and is in dire need of help basically, he steps up and finds a barn for the both of them to sleep overnight. And then comes a dark friend that tries to kill them both, and yet again Mat saves the day because he just is that guy.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
And I don't know, it just really shows from the get-go that Mat is so selfless, and Mat would always put other people's needs in front of his own. And especially when you're carrying a cursed dagger that really poisons you from within, it's incredibly special. And I just love that scene because you can see how much of a heart of gold he really does have. Even though it's very it's a very specific scene, I really love it, especially on a second reread. It stuck out to me. Now on the 9th place we have, and this is my cheating moment for the list, because these are overall all of the funny moments that Mat gives us throughout the series. Mat is an incredibly layered character. He has a bunch of stuff going on for him, but as a facade, he is the type of guy that is basically a comic relief. So with people that he doesn't really know and aren't close to him, this is what their opinion of him will be, that he is basically a jokester. He's snarky and funny and lighthearted basically. And he truly is, because he is so goddamn funny. Like, he has some of the funniest moments in the Wheel of Time, and I'll be naming a few because I cannot choose one of my favorites. But we obviously have the classic, his monologue with the boots and revolving the boots. Why do noblemen have so many pairs of boots? Who needs so many pairs of boots? And it's so funny, especially since you don't really know at the end if he was funny or it was a serious monologue, and he was trying to be very philosophical. So funny. Then we have his letter to Elaine, which is it stuck out to me, and I bet a lot of people as well. He was incredibly funny there. And then we have, major spoilers, closer to the end of the series when he finally reunites with both Rand and then with Perrin. Both of those scenes of them meeting, they're so goddamn funny. I absolutely adore seeing how Rand and Mat try to have a little contest of who has done more good, and then obviously Mat wins because he saved Moraine, and it's so cute. And then the fact that Mat went to the length of catching a badger to deliver to Perrin as a joke from The Eye of the World from the first book. He's such a sweetheart, and I bet his skills of catching badgers have gone through the roof throughout the series, so this is very believable. The next one might be my favorite thing that carries throughout a couple of books, and that is him trying to make these incredibly elaborate backstories for his soldiers when they go through towns, so people don't question them, and if they do, They have a lot of backstory to like present in an interrogation situation, and it's so funny how much effort he puts into them, how detailed they are, and they're never used, and he's so sad about that fact, and his soldiers always mess with him about it. So goddamn funny. It's like Quentin Tarantino going all out, and for what? And seeing him be disappointed. I just absolutely love it. So yeah, Matt has given us a bunch of very funny moments, and I do really appreciate it, because The Wheel of Time really needs a bit more hope and funny moments, because it can get a bit bleak at times. But now moving on to more serious moments, at number 9 we have Matt and Oliver's relationship throughout the series. I just absolutely adored it from the moment that he met Oliver and decided to take Oliver in as basically his child. It's such a heartwarming layer to Matt's character, and I really appreciated seeing his love for his sisters being transformed into his love for Oliver, seeing how in very dire and very tense situations, life or death situations basically, his first thought was that is Oliver okay? Like, I need to go and find Oliver and make sure that this kid is alright. And this happens in the span of like a couple of months. And I love it. It really indirectly shows that Matt has a heart of gold, and he is so incredibly caring, especially for people that need it most. Because Oliver was orphaned by the Shaido Aiel, and he needed guidance. He needed someone to love him and protect him, and he found that in Matt. And Matt found someone to offer his love to. And I just absolutely love how Oliver and Matt's relationship evolves, and how Matt is so confused as to why Oliver is behaving in the way that he is, and it's obvious that it's Matt's fault, but he never figures it out, and it's so funny. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's a side story in a sense, but it does a lot, and I really appreciate it. At number 7, we have Matt fighting Couladin and basically establishing the Band of the Red Hand. What I liked most about the scene was that you can physically see how Matt tries to deny his fate, how he tries to run away from the battle and just be a gambler for the rest of his life, but destiny reels him back in, and it's like, no, you actually have to do this. This is your destiny. This is the pattern we set for you. And he somehow, after the battle, comes out with a band of mercenaries that are with him, and he's their leader. It's a great moment for Matt. We see him finally take up the reins and prove himself as a great battle general. And another thing that I really loved was that it happened off screen. The battle with Couladin happened off screen. Maybe it would have been fun to see it as well, but I love how Jordan sometimes shows us battles or fights in great detail, like punch for punch, and other times the character blanks out and then you see the results of the battle. And I love that Couladin, that has been an antagonist that was being built up for the last couple of books, he's gone. And Matt did it. And then Matt has this band that is following him, not because they're being paid or because they're scared of him, but because they respect him and they believe in him and they want to be as lucky as Matt is. And this whole thing it's a very important moment for Matt's character, and it's done obviously great by Robert Jordan. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Would you have preferred to see the fight between Matt and Couladin more in detail and not off screen, or are you okay with how it was done in the end? Let me know. At number 6, still talking about this whole military general planning strategic guy that Matt has become, we have the moment when Matt interrupts Rand and his general's meeting of attacking Alien, and in a couple of minutes he resolves how it should be done. And the funny thing is that Rand and his generals came to the same conclusion, but it took them like a bunch of weeks. Seeing Rand's reaction to Matt's abilities was what sold the scene for me. Like, Matt always says, I'm not a hero, I'm not capable of doing this, I'm not capable of doing that, I'm just a farm boy, I'm just a gambler. but seeing other characters react to his skills, to his abilities and cunningness is what makes Mat so great. And we have this scene that sticks with me with the whole attack of Ilion, but we also have Tuon's scene when she and Mat reunite with the Band of the Red Hand after a bunch of time has passed, and she witnesses how the band treats Mat. She sees Mat become a leader in front of her eyes, and her whole perspective changes in an instant. And these are some of the best indirect descriptions of a character that I've read. And they just managed to show us Mat in such a great light, and really they showcase his abilities so well. We see that he's incredibly, basically he's a hero, and he's selfless, and he still at the end of the day will be the person that jumps in the river to save someone or runs in a burning building to save as many people as possible. So at number 5 we have Mat fighting both Galad and Gawain. So for a little backstory, we have Mat that has been healed by a poison dagger that has been poisoning him for the last 3 books. And after you get healed by the one power, you are incredibly weak. Like, you need a lot of rest, and you need a lot of food, and you need a lot of water. So your body is still adapting to its new found health, I guess, and you shouldn't be able to do anything. But Mat, being the person that he is, the character that he is, cannot stay in bed, so he decides to wander off through the White Tower Gardens, and he sees both Galad and Gawain practicing basically to become a warder. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but they decide to practice with him, and he absolutely decimates them. And take into consideration that Galad and Gawain probably are close to a Blade Master level, so they're incredibly skilled with fighting, and Mat absolutely decimates them with his staff.
Pause.
And I love this scene because it's so unexpected. It's not like a great battle moment. It's not like a great climax to the end of the book. And this is, I think, the first moment that we get of Mat being a badass, and I absolutely adored it. It came out of nowhere, and it's great. It's one of the scenes that I cannot wait to reread because I loved it upon my first read, so I bet I'm going to enjoy it a lot on my second read. But it's just so well, like, just that little scene sets Mat's character up so much. I love both Galad and Gawain. I know, controversial, but I did enjoy seeing them get their ass kicked by Mat. But yeah, it's a great scene for Mat's character. He truly, he shows us how great of a fighter he is as well, even though he doesn't feel 100%. It's just one of the classic Mat Cauthon scenes. So obviously, I'm not a monster. I would have it on my top 10, and yeah. I'm curious to see if you guys like it or whatnot. Are you really happy that Gawain and Galad got their ass kicked? Also to note that I really like that Mat's character fights with staffs or with his usual Ashandre. It's so interesting. I like sword fights. I like all types of fights and battles in my fantasy books. But for some peculiar reason, when a character has a staff, it's so much more dynamic and so much more interesting to read about. And yeah, that's just up my alley. Moving on, we have on the 4th place, Mat fighting the Ghulam. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I've Google searched it a bunch of times, but I cannot remember for the life of me if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm really bad with names. So, excuse me, fighting the Ghulam, the bad guy. But I loved that scene. I loved every single interaction that we get with Mat and the Ghulam. But the climax to that story is so well done. You cannot, if you don't know, you cannot harm a Ghulam with the one power. You cannot drown it. You cannot set it on fire. You cannot fight it with a sword. And I was really curious to see what Mat would do to actually fight off this guy, because it seemed like something unbeatable. And the resolution is so great. Like, I really loved how creative he got. I was thinking maybe he would use some sort of gateway, some sort of skimming to do that, but he just threw that guy into a void, into an abyss. And that's it. This is one of the things that I really like about Mat, because throughout the series we get to see him be like a strategist and use either elaborate battle plans and really like normal battle plans, or he uses something incredibly cunning like hiding his troops and making it look very hazy, or just using a gateway to diminish a bad guy. And seeing all these different methods of fighting, his ability to adapt to a fight is so interesting, and the resolution to his Gulam arc is so interesting. And I swear I'll stop pronouncing that word, because I have a bad feeling that I'm not pronouncing it right and that I'm irking all of you and myself for saying it that way. So I really like that fight. Moving on. At number 3, we have Mat blowing the horn of Valyria. Obviously, this is a classic moment. Obviously, it had to be on the list. We have, in my opinion, The Great Hunt is the first book in the Wheel of Time series that has this very Jordan-esque feel to it, and it really sets up the atmosphere that we will get throughout the series, because the first book is more your introduction to the world and it's more Tolkien-like. But from The Great Hunt onwards, you get the actual feel of the Wheel of Time. And Mat blowing the horn and getting the whole climax going in the end of The Great Hunt at the Battle of Falme just is the cherry on top. I absolutely adore the end of the second book, seeing Rand fight in the skies and seeing all the Sanchan and White Cloaks surrounding Mat and our guys, and feeling the desperation and hopelessness of the situation. And Mat's thinking behind blowing the horn is great. Like, everybody wasn't planning on blowing the horn because you don't know if you can blow it twice, and they were thinking that we need it for the last battle, so it's safer to not use it in any other circumstances other than the last battle. But here comes Mat and he's like, but guys, we don't really know, and the safest way we will know if it can be used twice is if we blow it the first time, so let's do it now because we need help. And it's such a great moment. It's such a Mat thing, and seeing Mat interact with Arthur Hawking and Brigitte and everybody, and having little glimpses, little seeds planted as to what Mat's character might be and what's going on, why they seem like they know Mat. It's so interesting. I absolutely loved Mat's role in the whole thing, and him being the guy that blows.
Pause. Again.
Him being the guy that blows the horn of Valyria is great. I really love it, and how it develops throughout the story is great as well. So just a Mat classic moment, I guess. At number 2, we'll have another moment that I cheat in this list, because I told you guys I cannot choose just 10 moments. So at number 2, we basically have Mat saving people, and especially Mat saving Moraine from the Tower of Genji and Mat saving the girls from the Stone of Terror. I'll be talking about them not in a chronological order, because I feel the need to talk about the Moraine thing first. Just that moment of the whole build-up of Mat really wanting to know about the letter, and him getting accustomed to the idea that he'll be saving Moraine, and him prepping, like mentally prepping to do that, and the whole Tower of Genji scene are astounding. Obviously, the Tower of Genji is an impressive and very important moment, so it's weird for me to like elaborate why I love it, but I'll still do it. I really love it because once again you see that Mat is a jerk with a heart of gold. He is the actual, in my opinion, the actual hero of the Wheel of Time series. He realized shortly after entering the Tower of Genji that he will be losing an eye to save Moraine, to save the world. And he just manned up to it and did it. He saved Moraine and basically saved the whole Wheel of Time. And I don't know, it's a great scene. It's very emotional seeing him go through everything that he goes through. It's very confusing as well because goddamn, that Tower of Genji is something else. But having Mat save Moraine is the best decision in the Wheel of Time. He is the best character to have done that, even though he lost an eye to do that. So that's, I mean, he looks like a pirate now, I guess, but still, it's sad. The Stone of Terror thing, I really liked it because once again, he does things for the people he loves. And I really love that scene because we get to see Mat devise this plan of going up on rooftops to be stealthy and going at night so he can better have a better chance at entering the Stone of Terror. And he's like, I'm going to be the only one because who would go there? And he gets up on the rooftops and there are a bunch of Aiels on a bunch of different rooftops, and it's so funny to see him like, why is everybody here today? Like, why is everybody here tonight? Like, why did I get this? Why is this happening to me? I was trying to be stealthy about it. And it's so funny that we have those little quips from Mat in the most tense of situations, and we get a little laugh because we need it. And it's so funny. It's not forced or anything. And obviously on the second place is basically all the moments that we get to see Mat being the best friend in the Wheel of Time and the most caring and kind person, basically. And before we get to my all-time favorite Mat Cauthon moment, I will have a bunch of honorable mentions. I'll not be going into them, but I have to mention Mat and Hinderstap. The whole scene is absolutely intense. The whole twist of the Hinderstap people and the sheer horror of the whole thing. I think this is mostly the most horror we get in the Wheel of Time. It's so gruesome and bloody and horrendous. I absolutely adore it. It's so fun, basically. Then we have Mat accidentally getting married to Tuon, to the daughter of the Nine Moons. And the last honorable mention is the whole thing with Mat and the portals and Mat getting his prophecies by the elven people, elven beings, because they're not people. I love prophecies in stories. I loved the whole different realm idea that we get through these portals, and it was just absolutely astounding what happened in Rhuidean with Mat. Everything, it was just done so well. So these are my honorable mentions. My absolute favorite moment of Mat is Mat in the last battle. And again, I'm being vague. It's not necessarily a moment, it's a whole sequence of moments. I just absolutely adore his contribution to the whole resolution of the Wheel of Time. In fantasy books, in fantasy series, I absolutely adore reading very complex battle scenes and seeing the thought process that goes behind them, seeing how they arrange every battalion, every troop, their plan of attacking, their plan of defending, especially since Mat is outnumbered, and how he was dealing with the fact that he was outnumbered. And it was, I got that in the Wheel of Time in a 200-page chapter. I could not ask for more. It's basically a novel of Mat doing stuff, and other characters as well. Obviously, it's not just Mat, but Mat was the general that guided this whole situation. And I love the moments that he feels the need to go in the first line so he can get the feel of the battle, so he can better arrange his troops and understand what is needed. And then we get to see him go back to base camp and being like, guys, also, you know that Gareth Bryan is a dark friend, right? And he's been there 5 minutes, and other people have been talking to Gareth Bryan for hours and hours and didn't figure it out. And he's like, yeah, it's obvious. This is obviously what's happening here. I absolutely adored the way he utilizes the Hinderstap people in the last battle. Getting to see that Ashaman's realization about those village people from Hinderstap was astounding, and seeing him realize that Matt is actually a good person was great. But just the whole thing of Matt charging up the hill and making way for Lan to fight the Madrid and everything, how heroic he is, how he organized the whole thing and fought through, basically saved the wheel of time, and just like instantly after he wins the last battle, how he just runs to Rand's help because he knows he needs to be there by his side. I just loved it. If I have to be honest, there's one little itty bitty thing that I didn't necessarily appreciate, and what it was Padan Fain. In my opinion, it was done a bit too quickly. Like, he has been built up from the first book, and I was like, oh, it's about to go down. I was like, I thought Mal was safe, but now I don't even know if he goes to fight Padan Fain. But he did it in like 5 seconds. I would have liked a bit more with Matt struggling to do that, but I guess it happens. But yeah, I would have loved to see after the last battle Matt and Tuan in the Sanchan lands and see how maybe Tuan realizes that having the Mame isn't the right thing to do, and Matt changing her perspective and living happily ever after. And I know we did not get that, but I would have loved to see the Mame being abolished and not being a thing anymore. But I just absolutely adore Matt. I'm always, when I'm saying that Matt is my favorite character, Rand just pops into my head and I feel really bad. But Matt might be my favorite character of the whole Wheel of Time series. Every single time when I was reading and I saw that chapter began with his name, I was like, okay, this is going to be a great chapter. I'm going to have the time of my life. And I don't know, it's just, he's such a great character, one of my favorite characters of all time. And I'm really curious to see what you guys think are his best moments. Like, did I miss something? Obviously, but did I miss something that you really liked and I didn't include it in this list? So if you guys think that I missed, and I obviously did, if I missed an important Matt moment in this list, let me know in the comments below, and let me know what your guys' favorite Matt moments are, because I really want to talk about this character. I really like this character a lot, and I'm really happy that I've done this video. It's very lighthearted, and I hope you guys loved it as well, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye! Also, for a little recommendation after the video has ended, if you guys really like Matt, I do really recommend, I've just read Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman, and the main character, Kinch, really resembles Matt. He is not identical to Matt, but he really does resemble that snarky jokester type of trickster, thief, no, not thief. Not this guy! But he does really resemble Matt, and he's very snarky and sarcastic and funny, and just a Matt type character. So be sure to check it out, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye!